सदाशिवसमारम्भाम् शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम् वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहना भवतु
सहनावतु
भुनक्तु
सहनौ
सह वीर्यं कर्वावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति
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 शान्तिः।
शान्तिः।
Om Tat Sat, Om Namah Shivaya,
Om Namah
everybody.
Shivaya.
Om Tat Sat, Om Namah Shivaya.
So we were on the 11th Anuvaka called Shishya Anusasanam, and we had completed up to Bhutaina Pramaditavyam. So we have to go to the next line. So I'll chant, please chant with me. Swadhyaya pravachanabhyam na pramaditavyam.
स्वाध्याय
स्वाध्याय
प्रवचनाभ्यां
प्रवचनाभ्यां
न
न प्रमदितव्या
प्रमदितव्यम्.
Okay, so Swadhyaya here means the chanting, learning to chant, Adhyananam. And Vedic chanting has a name, it's called Ghoshaha. So Ghoshaha, the word we have seen before. Where have we seen it?
Chapter 1 Bhagavad Gita.
Chapter 1. Nakulas Sahadevascha Sughosham Mani
Sughosham
Pushpam.
Mani Pushpakam.
So Sughosham means pleasant sound. Therefore, chanting is called Ghosham. Ghosham basically means a loud chanting done by the group of Vedikas. And it's called Ghosham because it purifies the environment. So that's Swadhyaya. The next word is Pravachana. So both have different meanings. Pravachana means Adhyapana. That is the actual teaching. Not lecturing, not discourses. Systematic teaching. Therefore, it says Swadhyaya and Pravachanam. One should not neglect. One should not, na pramaditavyam. One should not neglect either of them. What happens, what is the instruction for? If you neglect either the chanting regularly or the teaching, what is the damage that will be done?
If we neglect the chanting regularly, we will we tend to
You
forget
will
and not.
forget. Correct. And if you forget, there is no question of pravachanam. You cannot teach if you have
Yes.
forgotten what the words are. And therefore, the very parampara will be damaged. The Guru Shishya parampara will not be damaged, will not be maintained. So, Swadhyaya, Ravachanabhyam, and Prabhatitamya do not damage the Guru parampara, maintain it. And therefore, you should be chanting regularly and you should be teaching regularly. Okay. Then the next one. देवपितृकार्याभ्यां न प्रपदितव्यम्
देवपितृकार्य प्रमदितव्यम्
मातृदेवो भव
मातृदेवो भव
पितृदेवो भव
पितृदेवो
पितृदेवो भव
आचार्यदेवो भव
आचार्यदेवो भव
आचार्यदेवो भव
अतिथिदेवो भव.
अतिथिदेवो भव
अतिथिदेवो भव.
So these are all what we already know because we have been learning this from maybe the teachers, maybe our parents, maybe our grandparents. But this is the origin, where it originates from. The source of these instructions are here. So Deva, Pitra, Karyam, that is to say, all the karmas which are necessary for Deva Puja and Pitra Yajna, these should not be neglected. Deva Karyam and Pitra Karyam, na pramaditavyam, you should not neglect. You should do every day Deva Puja, worship of God, and you should do Pitra Yajna also. And why should you do Deva Puja? Because it's not just for yourself. Okay, you do puja, of course you do. Sakama puja is there because you ask for various things. I want this, let my daughter get married, let my son get married, let my person who is not well get all right. These are all the sankalpas that you do. But there is only one aspect of puja. there is a Nishkama aspect also. What is the Nishkama aspect? So Bhagavatam gives an example. It's Bhagavatam says that when you want to water a tree or to nourish the tree, where do you pour the water?
Roots.
On the
At the
roots.
roots. But does the water remain at the roots? No. It
No.
goes to every single cell of the tree and nourishes it. And so this is also saying that the entire Jagat and all the people, it's like a tree. And there are people who suffer all over the world. And today's unfortunately the world is such that the moment you open the paper or put on the TV, the first thing that you see is people suffering. There are bombs falling over, the people being killed, the planes being hijacked, planes falling out of the sky. Suffering is paramount. And when you see that, there is a feeling of total helplessness. Like for Ahmedabad, for example, and so a month ago when that Air India plane fell out of the sky, you know, all of us had that absolute feeling of helplessness. Nothing we could do. So it's not possible for me to help every person in this world. That feeling can be very strong and it can be very emotionally damaging also for us because it makes you out as a person who is useless, who can't do anything. That you should not be getting that erosion of self-worth. Why? As a Vaidika, you are saying that I am the Lord. How can you make that statement if you are not having a good self-worth? And these sort of incidents where you see people suffering and you are not able to help, they have at their root, they have this particular problem that they make you feel helpless. And so Veda is saying that that's not really true. You know, you are not helpless. Maybe you cannot reach out to help every suffering person in this world. You don't have to do that. One doesn't need to go and water each leaf of the tree. You water the root. And what is the root of the universal tree? Ishvara. Therefore, whatever you service you do to Ishvara, that karma will reach the entire world. So that's why we do Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha. Whenever we pray, we say that let everybody be happy. Let nobody be suffering. Let nobody have any disease. What are you doing? You are doing puja to the Lord. And therefore, just as the water which I pour at the bottom of the tree reaches the entire tree and nourishes every leaf, whatever is offered to the Lord will help everybody. And therefore, here it is saying that never, never neglect your daily prayer. And in your daily prayer, never neglect the sankalpa that everybody should be comfortable, that nobody should suffer. Because that prayer, which you are giving as an offering to the Ishvara, that will reach everybody through Ishvara. Okay, that's one thing. It will help the world. At the same time, for you also, that Nishkama prayer has a very important aspect. What is that?
It gives us
Shuddhi.
chitta shuddhi.
It confers Chitta Shuddhi, Jnana Yogyata. Okay, so this is what is meant by Deva Karya. Deva Karya na Pramaditavya. Similarly, Pitra Karya. Pitra is your ancestors. And generally, we say that, they may be reborn, so why should I do? That's an argument which I've heard. How do I know they are still traveling? They have been reborn. But the commentators say that that is no reason for you not to do the rituals for the ancestors. Okay. Normally, the reasoning is that you should do ancestors all these rituals because that punyam will reach the ancestors. Worship of the ancestors is necessary because it will help them, right? But and then there can be an argument. But that ancestor, scripture itself says, he travels for some time and then later he is reborn, right? What if he's reborn? Then he's no longer my ancestor, right? Because the ancestor part is gone. Then what happens? Why should I still continue the ritual? So scripture says, or rather the commentators say that there are two reasons. One is that this particular ritual which you do for your ancestors is a mandate of Shastra, right? Shastram says you shall do this ritual, and therefore you should do it without thinking, because you don't know what are the benefits. Therefore, when Shastram says, Shastram must be saying it because there is something which will benefit you. That's one. And secondly, even if your ancestors have been reborn, there are some commentators who say that this offering will go towards the ancestors of other people, who have no offering from their children, who don't have children, supposing, or whose children don't make offering. What about them? So this ancestor worship, Pitra, Pitra worship, Pitra Karim, which you do, even if your ancestors have been reborn separately, these will not go waste. They will go towards helping the ancestors of other people whose children are not there or whose children do not do these offerings. So those are very practical realities which Shastra says. And even if all these don't happen, then what? The karma will definitely purify your mind. It will give chitta shuddhi. Right? So that's the uh, reason why ancestors worship and worship of the devas are mentioned. Then there are further instructions. Matra Devo Bhava. May you look upon your mother as Ishvara herself. Right? So when you look at your mother, you should see only Ishvara, only the Lord you should see. Similarly, Pitra Devo Bhava. When you look upon your father, you should see the Lord. So don't look at your parents because they are human beings, right? And as we are also human beings, we love to see deficiencies in others. The Shastra says that is not the way in which you should look at your parents. When you look at Ishvara, you look at Ishvara as Nirdosha Ishvara. Nirdosham Samam Brahma. Absolutely faultless. And therefore, whenever you look upon either your mother or your father, look upon them as Ishvara. And therefore, you should not be looking at any limitations or any deficiencies. Then Acharya Deva Bhava. Look upon your teachers as Ishvara. Right? So these are the three most fundamental relationships which we all have. The first few years, the contact with my mother is maximum because I'm never away from her. And she is never away from me. Father is also there, but the contact is slightly less than the father. But intense contact is with mother. Also, there is continuous contact with the father. And then comes the teacher. Once you are old enough to learn, then is the teacher. So Shastra says these three relationships are the most powerful relationships in your life and they are the ones who influence you the most. And therefore, it is essential to have these three relationships as healthy. And if you have these three relationships as a very healthy relationships, then you will become emotionally mature. So that's why so much stress is laid upon these three relationships. Look upon them as the Lord. Then Atiti Devo Bhava. Atiti is the guest. May you look upon the Atiti as Ishvara. And this was very relevant in Vedic society for a particular reason. You know, in those days, according to Vedic instructions, you are not supposed to sell food. Food cannot be sold. And that is why you will find that in those days, there were no hotels or restaurants. Whenever you look at any Shastra or any old Puranas, you will never find any mention of restaurants or hotels. Right? Food could not be sold, and hotels were simply not there. But pilgrimage was necessary. And what is the essential part of a pilgrimage? You travel during the day, but for the night, you need a place to stay and you need food also. Right? Therefore, the instruction was that you what do you call, plan your travel in such a way that daytime you travel and by night time you are at some village or the other. And in whichever village the, the pilgrim lands up by nightfall, he has to take shelter in some house and be given food. And therefore, every family in every village, every family in every village was supposed to offer shelter and food to the pilgrims. Right? So remember that the guest, the Atiti, would be totally unknown because he's not a guest in the sense of today's guest, somebody known to me, I welcome, I look upon, whose company I enjoy. That is not the meaning of Atiti, right? In fact, the Atiti derivation is na vidyate dvitiya titihi yasya atiti. Na vidyate dvitiya titihi. The one who does not stay for a second night. Yasya atiti. That person is the guest. Atiti. Very nice thing. So, Atiti is not supposed to misuse your hospitality. He can stay in the night, he can have his food, he can have his bath, and he should get lost. So, every house had, if you're a big enough house, you have something which is a outside room, a room which is outside the house, which is got a bathroom and, all the and bedroom and all that. Just or a bed and a bath must have. And food, of course, you have to serve. So that was the Atiti, person who is totally unknown. And also his coming and going is not known. He doesn't, you don't know whether you will get Atiti that night or not. That is why in the old days also, you will find that there is always enough food kept for one person at least. You make it extra. Of course, these are not very practical today, right? If somebody comes at your house and says, I'm a pilgrim, I want to stay. Please, will you give me food? No, because you don't know whether they'll kill you or not, right? So in today's environment, all that has gone. But this is how Shastra was, how the world was. A very beautiful world those days. Okay, we chant the rest. Yanyanvadhyani karmani
यानि
यान्यवद्यानि
कर्माणि
कर्माणि
तानि सेवितव्यानि
तानि
तानि
सेवितव्यानि
सेवितव्यानि
नो इतराणि
नो
नो
इतराणि
इतराणि
यान्यस्माकं सुचितराणि
यान्यस्माकं
यान्यस्माकं
सुचरितानि
तानि तव्योपास्यानि
तानि
तानि
तव्योपास्यानि
तत्त्वोपास्यानि
So now the Acharya gives some important advice for all of us. So for learning Dharma Shastra, for studying Dharma Shastra, what is the it is important to know what is the right way of living. Right? That is what is meant by Dharma Shastra. Karmic living. What is the correct way to live? And therefore you must know what is dharmic karma and what is adharmic karma. What is proper action and what is improper action, you must know. Now, with respect to what is dharma and what is adharma, Shastram says that there are three pramanams. Remember, pramanams are what? Original sources of knowledge. So there are three pramanams. What are they? So these three pramanams you must remember because the first two you will remember, but the last one usually we forget. The first one is Shruti, original and primary source. It tells you, the Karma Kala tells you what is right and what is wrong. So that's called Dharma Shastra. Then there are Smriti Granthas. There are many secondary scriptures. All of them are based on Shruti alone. Right? So remember in all Shruti Granthas, the words belong to Ishvara. In all Smriti Granthas, the words belong to the writer. the acharyas. But the contents are extracted from Shruti alone. So in the first, the words belong to Ishvara. In the second, the words belong to human beings, to acharyas. But the contents of the words, they are not that of the human beings. They are of the Shruti alone. They are of Ishvara alone. So Veda is one, that is Shruti, and Smriti is second one. And the third one is very important. Shishta Acharaha. Right? Shishta Acharaha means Shishta is a person who has understood, who has studied Shruti and Smriti and assimilated. So Shishtaha, the wise person, the prominent person who has assimilated both Shruti and Smriti. And Acharaha is the way he moves, the way his lifestyle. So Shishta Achara is the lifestyle of those people who have thoroughly assimilated Shruti and Smriti. Right. So this can be this is the third one. When you have some, person who fulfills these conditions, whom you are in contact with, then his lifestyle is something which is a pramanam to you as to how you should conduct your own life. Okay. Now, a question which I have been asked earlier is a very valid question. What happens if the Shishta Achara, conduct of the Shishta, is contradictory to Shruti and Smriti? For example, Rishi Durvasa, you have heard, right? Rishi Durvasa was a Shishta Achara. He understood Smriti as well as Shruti. What was his problem?
The most anger.
Anger was the problem. And both Shruti and Smriti, they say you should not get angry. Right? Sama. Sama is being violent all the time. In such a thing, what happens? Supposing you have a Shishtachara who is getting angry all the time. Should you follow that because we say that Shishtachara is, you know, Pramanam? No. In such a case, you should follow Shruti only. And therefore, Shastra is pointing out that Shruti is perfect, but no human being, no means no, right? No human being can be perfect. 100% lack of defect, 100% perfection cannot be there in a being which has a human body. For that matter, even avatars, if you see, they have had, you know, defects or imperfections. And if you have to look for the perfect one, who is that?
Only Ishwar.
Come again.
Only
Lord
Ishwar.
Krishna.
Only Ishvara is perfect. And therefore, here Shastra is saying that you start with the Guru because he is the one who teaches you, right? But remember that when Guru is teaching you, we are taking Guru as Ishtachara, the person who has understood Shruti and Smriti. When Guru is teaching you, remember there is a hierarchy. Shruti, Smriti, Guru. And therefore, here, Shastra is saying a time should come when you should shift your reliance or your understanding more to Shastra. You start with the Guru, slowly your dependency should shift from Guru to Shastra. And in that, of course, when you shift from dependency, first is Shruti, then is Smriti. So wherever Smriti is not following Shruti's instructions, Shruti is paramount. Right? And subcommenters give many, many examples. So if you have read Ramayana and Mahabharata, you know that there are rishis, right? Rishis are people who are shishtacharas. But supposing somebody has done something which the rishi doesn't like, and the rishi doesn't, he curses him. Says, okay, fine, you will be reborn as a snake in the next birth, something like that. So, subcommenters say that this is violation of Shishtachara, actually, violation of Shruti Smriti, and such behavior should not be followed. Even in our Puranas, for example, Bhagavatam, Parshurama is supposed to have killed his mother on the instructions of his father. That is presented as a devotion to the father. It is presenting one specific, what do you call it, value, virtue. But all commentators say, all acharyas say that only the value is to be understood, but you cannot follow that. Why?
So Parashuram, while following the value of Pitra Deva Bhava, violated the previous one, Matra
Matra
Deva.
Deva Bhava he violated. And Matra Deva Bhava is predominant, right? That's why what comes first? Matra Deva Bhava. So he violated that. Therefore Shastram says, Yan yapi cha anyani. You can bring that up. Api yani anyani. Means with regard to all other actions. What actions? Actions other than those we have seen in this Anuvaka. What is the Aritam, Satyam, Deva Karma, Pitra Karma? With regard to all the other actions, you should understand that you can do those actions only anavadhyani. Anavadhyani means that which is not prohibited by Shastra. So that anavadhyani portion was not obeyed by Parshuram. Was not even understood by Parshuram, right? Because at that point you have to tell your father, Kirit, he cannot do this. Okay. So this is a very important one. In case your wise people or the shishtas, they are doing something or telling you to do something which is clearly prohibited, then you should not do it. Right? So here we are talking about Shishta is the one who has studied the scriptures. And only if the karma is anavadhyani, not prohibited by Veda. Anavadhyani is not prohibited by Shruti. Then only should you want Tani Sevitavyani. It's a very important thing. Anavadhyani Tani Sevitavyani. Only those actions which are not prohibited by the scriptures, by Shastram, even if they are being done by Shishtas or you are being ordered to do them by your elders, you should follow only if they are not prohibited by the Shastra. Tani Sevitavyani. No itarani. No is what you should not do. So no itarani. No means not the English no, though the effect is coming as the same. Okay. No itarani means na kartavyani. So in that no, you have to write grammatically if you want to see na plus u. So na u kartavyani. U is the emphasis factor. Indeed, you should not do. U na kartavyani. Indeed, you should not do. What? Itarani. Itarani is what? Savadhyani. Those actions which are prohibited by Shruti. So avadhyam means a defect or a prohibition. And sa avadhyam is savadhyam. Savadhyam means the action which is got defects or prohibited by the scriptures. And na kartavyani, no itarani. These actions they should not. So very clearly saying that you should do only actions which are permitted or not prohibited by scriptures, and reiterating it by saying that you should not do actions which are prohibited by scriptures, even if what they are being done by your guru himself, or you are being ordered to do them by your guru or your elders. So what is it doing? What is this finally doing after having said that guru is the greatest, father is the greatest, mother is the greatest? What is it? What are you being told?
But Shastra is the greatest of all.
You're being told that whoever does whatever, you know, you should finally ensure that your behavior, your actions do not violate Shastra. So the responsibility is totally yours. You cannot say ever that I did this because I was ordered to do that by my father or my mother. Right? Matradeva bhava, pitradeva bhava, acharyadeva bhava excludes actions which are clearly prohibited by Veda. You cannot abandon your intellect. You cannot take shelter under fact that somebody else told you to do so. Okay. Then yan asmakagam suchitirani. Sucharitani. Okay. So yani asmakam. Yani asmakam means from that person, from that acharya, what do you expect? Sucharitani. Sucharitani is Charitram. Can you understand? What is Charitram?
Su is good and Charitram is the
Behavior,
way he lived.
character. So Sucharitani is Shobhana Charitani. This noble behavior, auspicious behavior. And how do you define this auspicious behavior? Because Veda doesn't define, right? So Shankaracharya says, Amnyadi Aviruddhani. Amnya is another name for Amna is another name for Shruti, which you must remember. Amna is another name for Shruti. So Amna Yadi Aviruddhani, which are not violative Veda. So very beautiful definition of good behavior. Good character is that character which is Amnyadi Aviruddhani, which does not violate the injunctions of the Veda. And he says, Tani eva tvaya upasyani. So the last one is Tani eva tvaya upasyani. Upasya means to follow. Therefore, only those you should follow. So in short, don't blindly follow the guru or your mother or your father wherever his actions contradict Shastra. And there is one more reason, okay, which is not stated here. You do not know why your father or mother has acted in a particular manner. So don't ever pass judgment also. So it does, when you say that I won't do something, if he is doing something wrong, if your mother is doing something which is apparently violating the Shastra, or your guru is doing something which is apparently violating the Shastra, you don't do. But do not ever judge. Why? Because you do not know why they are doing that action. So never stand in judgment of your parents or your guru. The instructions are take away whatever is appropriate for you to, act or talk about, and leave behind what you think is inappropriate. Why is this? Because guru may compromise on some value. And remember that if you compromise upon a value, it's a very important point, incidentally, okay? If you compromise upon a value, when you are free from raga dvesha, that is not really a compromise. Do you understand? Look at the Mahabharata war. How many times did Krishna deviate from what you would say is ethical behavior?
A lot.
a lot, right? But we don't say that Krishna compromised on values. Why? Because Krishna had no ragadvesha. An avatara has no ragadvesha. As long as you have no ragadvesha, compromising on a value is not a problem. Remember that values are what in Shastram we call them. They are governed by vidhi and nisheda, by do's and don'ts. Why do you have do's and don'ts? Because Shastram recognizes that you have very strong raga dvesha. And the do's and don'ts are to prevent you from doing actions which compromise the values because of your raga dvesha. And therefore, once you are beyond that, so your guru hopefully is beyond raga dvesha. Once you are beyond raga dvesha, the guru may do things or say things which to you they appear as if they are breaking the value system. But because he is beyond Ragadvesha, it is not. And there may be a reason why he is doing it. Okay? It's a very important teaching. I don't know if anybody of you knows an old story, during the what do you call it, independence struggle, Gandhiji, he went to Birla, the original Birla, okay, original Birla, and said that I want funds to fund my struggle. So do you know what Birla did? He said to have given the checkbook, signed checkbook to Gandhi and said that you use. How did Birla have so much trust? Because he viewed Gandhi as a person who has transcended Ragadvesh. And therefore that trust would never be misused. Therefore, remember when you trust somebody totally, it is only because you can do that only because that person is not going to be influenced by likes and dislikes. And therefore, he says, no itarar. Do not do prohibited actions, even if they are being done by your guru. Therefore, those actions which are not proper, those actions which are against Shastra, right? Remember that in our Sanatana Dharma, the center, the foundation is always Shastra. Any interpretation of this Sanatana Dharma, which revolves around the individual, a person centric interpretation, you should reject straight away. When the Guru is talking, he should be telling you that this comes from this Veda, this comes from this Upanishad, this comes from this chapter of the Upanishad, this chapter of Karma Kanda. If the Guru ever says, this is my teaching only, what should you do?
Move away, change the guru.
Well, okay, put it better, you just put Namaskara and you go. Okay, that is why, Buddhism could never survive because it contradicted the Shastra. And therefore, Buddha was rejected, especially after Shankara. Another thing, I am not dissing Yoga Shastra, okay? Patanjali has given several practices which are good for Chitta Shuddhi, which we all do. But the philosophy of Yoga Darshanam is against Vedic teaching. And therefore, we don't adopt that philosophy. It's dualistic. Similarly, Nyaya Vaisheshika, they present extremely logical method of thinking. And that thinking method does not contradict the Veda. Tarkashastra says that Lord can be proved by logical method. That we don't accept. Because for us, the Pramanam is not Tarka. The Pramanam is Veda only. But the the logical method of thinking, that doesn't contradict Veda, that we accept. Right? So the philosophy of saying that logic is the method of proving Brahman or Ishvara, we reject. Right? But the individual logical steps we accept. Right? And therefore, anything, anybody, any Mahatma, as we call Ramana Maharishi, Ramakrishna, even Shankaracharya, if you find there is a contradiction to the Shastra, you have to reject. And you have to adopt only which is in line with the Shastra. Never, never, never surrender your intellect. Okay. Now we look at the next portion. ये के चास्मच्छ्रेयागंसो ब्राह्मणः
एके चाश्रेयो ब्राह्मणः
तेषां त्वयासनेन प्रशवसस्तव्यम्
तेषां त्वयासनेन प्रशस्यव्यम्
दया देयम्
श्रद्धया देयम्
ध्येयम्
अश्रद्धया देयम्
अश्रद्धया देयम्
श्रिया देयम्
श्रिया देयम्
प्रिया देयम्
प्रिया देयम्
धिया देयम्
धिया देयम्
संविदा देयम्
संविदा देयम्.
So now the Shastra is saying that how to behave with respected people. Right? So a description is given. Acharyatva adi dharmehi. So that's what Shankara says. If that person is a person who has the dharma, so dharma here means the qualities, the virtues. If the person has the qualities of a acharya, and what should you think? Asmat shreyam saha. So cha asmat shreyam saha. That's what the breakup is. Means asmat, compared to us, that person who has these qualities of acharya, shreyam saha, he is superior. And if he is superior to me, te che brahmanaha, they are guna brahmanas. So he doesn't say guna brahmana here, but the teacher says understand them as guna brahmanas. Who are guna brahmanas? Anybody who has the virtues of an acharya, and because of that, compared to us, asmat, they are shreyamsaha, they are superior. Te che brahmanaha, they are guna brahmanas. What should you do? Tesham, to those people. Asanena. Asanena means provide a seat, provide an asanam to them. And then what? Tvaya prashavasitavyam means uh, prashvasanam, prashvasaha. So that is basically you should remove the shrama. That is what is what shrama apanaya. Shankara comments saying shrama apanaya. Apanaya means remove. Shrama means fatigue. So when you see such people who are superior to you and who are superior to how? By having the virtues of a acharya, of a guru, then you should honor them by providing them a seat, asanena, and then you should remove their fatigue by providing food and water. So that is, this sentence can be split in many ways, okay? One is tvaya asanena prashavasitavyam. So this is the meaning. You should provide the seat and remove their tiredness by providing food and water. And Shankara says you can also split another way. Tvaya asane na prashavasitavyam. Tvaya, first one is what? Tvaya asanena Prashavasitavyam. The second split is Tvaya asane na
No.
prashavasitavyam. You see the difference? Asanena means by means of a asana. Here it is Tvaya asane, give them a seat, and here what is Tvaya asane means, the meaning is completely different. You have to take it as that person has already been given a seat. I'm just muting her because somebody's mic is on and the recording is getting disturbed. Okay. In the second split, Tvaya asane na prasava sitavyam. You have to take it that you have already given the seat. Right. And then how do you take this? Supposing you have gone to some function or you have gone to some ashram and there is a Mahatma there already seated. So you take it that the Mahatma is already seated. Right. And then what is going on? Some discussion on Vedanta is going on. And when this opportunity arises, remember that you are in the presence of uh, Vriddha. So Vriddha means somebody superior to you, not just old. Mahatma. And Shastra says that when you say people are superior to you, there are three ways of looking at that. One is Jnana Vriddha. He has more knowledge than you have. One is Sheela Vriddha. Sheela means practice. So he is more of an expert than you are. And therefore, what is he? Asmat Shreyaha. He is superior in many fields. And then the second interpretation, it says that when such a person you see and he's, let us say, he's already seated and he is giving some discourse, then na prashavasitavyam applies to you. Which means what? Prashvasaha na kartavyaha. Not even breathe. So in the first place, in the first interpretation, prashavasitavyam was to take away the shrama, the tiredness. Here it means don't breathe. Obviously, in this, it is applicable to you because you should not talk in front of the other Mahatmas. You should only listen. Whatever the discussions, try to understand. Kevalam listen, only understand. Right? So this is the meaning. That the two meanings are there. One is that if you come to an acharya, honor him, give him food and all that if he comes to your house. Other is assuming that you have gone somewhere else and you are seeing an acharya who is teaching. There you should not talk unnecessarily, not disturb him. Just listen. So the idea is that acharya is central. Why is he central? Because he is the one who gives you access to the Shastra. So until the time that the Shastram is understood by me, the Acharya is primary. Once the Shastram has been understood, assimilated, then the Shastram becomes dominant and the individual becomes secondary. It's not that you are saying the Acharya is or belittling the Acharya. You are not humiliating the Acharya. You will still worship him when you see him. You will still fall at his feet and give him all sort of obeisances. But what is being pointed out is that the tradition, the parampara, the scripture is the central theme of the tradition, not the acharya. And therefore, the individual cannot be greater than the parampara. Focus on the shastram is tradition. So when you say parampara, it is always focus on shastra. If you focus on the guru instead of shastram, it is no longer parampara. It's called a cult. And you see that in today's world. The guru is central focus. Remember that if the teaching has been in such a manner that the guru has become the point of focus, then I would say that guru has failed to teach Shastra. Because the guru's teaching of the Shastram should be in such a way that it reduces your dependency upon the Guru, and Shastram becomes primary in your life. The tradition becomes primary in your life. If that has been conveyed, then only the Guru has been successful in his teaching. Okay. Now, Shraddhaya Deyam. So, Shraddhaya Deyam means whatever is given as charity, as dhanam, that should be given with Shraddha. In what? Shraddha, they give with Shraddha. If you are giving charity or alms, it should be given with Shraddha. What does this really mean? Shraddha in what?
Willingly give away, happily give, with joy.
That's not, Shraddha doesn't mean willingly or joyously.
Okay.
In Vedic instructions.
Absolutely. Why so?
Oh, yes, because when you
Because
give, you have to see whether the person is appropriate patra.
There are many
And
instructions. So, but the first one is that what does Veda say you will get when you give charity?
Adrishta Punya.
Adrishta Punyam. So that first thing should be there. I am giving because Veda is instructing me, and there will be Adrishta Punyam. So may I give with Shraddha? Because whatever I give, remember that I am not really losing anything. Why? Because it will come back to me as Adrishta Punyam. And therefore, I am gaining Chitta Shuddhi. That faith must be there. That Shraddha must be there. And therefore, Shraddhayadayam. Give with Shraddha. Then the next one is, you can see Ashraddhayadayam. Okay, now Ashraddhayadayam, don't translate as give without Shraddha. The breakup should be careful. If you look at the two words, you will see there is a inverted S over there in the middle. So that's a. So Ashraddhaya Adayam. Ashraddhaya Adayam. Which means do not give without Shraddha. Why?
Intention matters most when we do some action.
Let me quote something. Adesha kale yaddanam appatrebhyascha diyate asatkratam avukyatam tattamasam dharatam.
that will be tamasic danam.
That is tamasik. We have not done it as it 17th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So Adesha akala yaddanam apatra diyate. These are all the instructions. So there's do not give without faith. Because if you give without faith, what will happen? You think that you are losing something. And therefore there will be resentment and interpretations. Okay, there is also another interpretation to Ashraddhaya Adeyam. Okay, and that is exactly the opposite. Some commentators say that it means that Ashraddhaya Deyam, it's not that. It is Ashraddhaya Deyam. It is not Ashraddhaya Adeyam. It is Ashraddhaya Deyam, which doesn't mean that give without faith. You have to add an even in front. Even if you do not have Shraddha, you should still give. Why?
It is still going to benefit the receiver.
One, it will benefit the receiver. In the other case, when you're giving with Shraddha, what happens is you are also benefited. So there are two people benefited when you give with Shraddha. When you give without Shraddha, only one is benefited. But even that is better than not giving. So that is another interpretation. Okay. But remember, Krishna said it is tamasic dhanam. Then Shriya Deyam. Shriya means plenty. Vibhutaya, adequate quantity. So give in adequate quantity. Riya deyam. Riya means lajjaya, be modest, right? So give in such a way that the receiver does not feel humiliated. Remember that you can give with arrogance. So you can give without shraddha, that is tamasika danam. But you can give with arrogance, without, taking into account the other person is feeling humiliated. That arrogance converts the dhanam into rajasika dhanam, both of which are not good for us. Then bhiya deyam. Bhiya means with fear. Do not give with fear. What is the logic? It can be taken as fear of pratyavaya papam. So dhanam comes under nitya karma, which is compulsory, mandatory for us. And if you don't do, what happens? You are subject to pratyavaya papam under sins of omission. So one interpretation is bhiyadeyam, give because you should be afraid of incurring pratyavaya papam. Another meaning of bhiya, which other commentators have given, is you can look at the word fear as conveying the meaning of concern or anxiety. And therefore, bhiyadeyam means that when you give to someone, be concerned about his welfare. Use empathy, right? So this means you should have the capacity to empathize with the person whom you are giving to. Then samvidadeyam. So samvida is to be taken as a social obligation. Give it as a mandatory obligation of society. But of course, Shankara, being Shankara, he gives a different meaning. He says samvida has to be taken as jnana. And therefore, it's a very important understanding, this commentary of Shankara's. Samvida says that give dhanam, but with proper jnana, which relates directly to the verse which I quoted. Desha kale cha patre cha tad dhanam satvikam smritam. Give with the proper understanding of desha, kala, patra. Desha is right place, kala is right time, patra is right person. So giving dhanam at a traffic signal is not correct. Understand what the person is going to do before you give. If he's going to go and buy drugs, don't give. Because you don't know. But if you give dhanam at the traffic signal, that is most likely what they do. Okay. With this, we will stop for today. And any questions? Otherwise, we still have some part of this particular parat undone that we'll do in the next class.
Acharya ji, in that Teshan Tvayasanena Prashvasitavyam, in the first breakup where you said Asanena and then
Asanena is one word.
So after having offered them a seat, then what will that Prashvasitavyam mean?
There is a interpretation. It means that you should take away their tiredness. You want the exact wording, I can give it to you. Right? I didn't give it because, people will want a grammatical thing over here. Anyway, so if you want the breakup, it is Prashvasanam Prashvasaha. That is what Shankara says. Prashvasanam Prashvasaha. And he comments that means Shrama Apanayaha. Apanayaha means remove. Shramaha means fatigue. So that is the commentary that Shankaracharya gives.
Acharya ji, you had said Jnana Vriddha and Sheela Vriddha. Did you use another word? Was it 2 or 3?
Two. Jnana Vriddha and Sheela Vriddha. You can be either,
knowledge.
I said 3, I think, but I think it's only 2. It's only 2.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Acharya.
Okay, so with this, we'll stop for the day. Thank you for your patience. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you for your patience. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om
Thank you,
Namah
Ravi.
Shivaya.